Well, fantastic. This was a fun thought to get lost in, Zach, and I think it has warmed us up quite nicely for the last little bit I want to do here on the podcast this week, and that is, like I said, a little backdoor pilot. If you are familiar with old television shows, thing they used to do on an episode where you change things up just a little bit. You're not quite doing the routine. And we're going to try something a little new, and if everyone feels good about it, maybe you see some more of it in a different format. But this is a little something I would like to do called Pop Culture Craft, and this is where we discuss things outside of the sports world, but I'm making it relevant to our sports discussion today. And with you, Zach, you were actually one of the only people I could think of who I can discuss this topic with, and that is the filmography, the career, the sports stylings of Mr. Adam Sandler and his Happy Gilmore, now 2 films, nearly 30 years apart. I want to discuss the original, the sequel, and kind of everything that's happened with Adam Sandler in between. And I'd love to start with, where do you remember the first time you saw Happy Gilmore?
Yeah.
And when was that?
I'm pretty sure I saw it over the grandparents' house, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure I was watching it with you, if I remember
I
correctly.
do not remember 100%, but that seems very likely that I was the one to introduce you to that movie. Do you remember at all how old you were?
I was young. I was like 5 or 6, I'd probably say.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, we came to this movie at roughly the same times in our lives. This movie came out in 1996. I was 8 years old at the time. But let me paint the picture for you of 1996 when Happy Gilmore is coming out. So far in the 90s, Wayne Gretzky has been traded out to LA and has started a hockey boost out on the West Coast there.
Did this happen before or after the Mighty Ducks?
The Mighty Ducks franchise comes out first. They are a 93 or 94 movie for that very first one.
So the California hockey boom is kind of already...
So we had a California hockey wave, then the Mighty Ducks come out and say, hey, Minnesota's a hockey town, did you know that? And also, the first one is all Minnesota hockey, Pee Wee hockey.
Mm-hmm.
That gets a big upsurge. Then we've got Adam Sandler, who is a controversial figure on Saturday Night Live. He has just left the show after 5 years of, again, I personally look back on that era of the SNL pretty fondly with Chris Farley, David Spade, Chris Rock, Adam Sandler.
Yeah,
those guys.
Top 2, probably, next to the great one of all time that everyone thinks of, the Belushi.
The very classic, yeah. But at the time, this was a pretty critically hit or miss casting.
Did you do this after or before Waterboy?
So this is before Waterboy. The first movie he leaves SNL, comes out with his first feature film, that's Billy Madison. And Billy Madison is a surprise actual success. Like, they gave him money and his movie made money back, so they said, you can make another one. And what he came up with was Happy Gilmore. When Happy Gilmore releases in 1996, the other thing that has just happened in 1996 that little 8-year-old Nick is absolutely ecstatic and in love with hockey about is that the Avs have just lifted the Stanley Cup. So now my whole world is shaded in hockey, and
the Avs came and lifted a cup.
Yeah, immediately. A new thing in town. It's called hockey. We're the best at it. I'm absolutely on board with this, and now there's a movie with Adam Sandler, and he is about hockey too. So all of that to say, this is a very important movie in my life, and I have watched it probably over a dozen times. That all being said, it is a kind of hit and miss movie with a lot of people, much like Adam Sandler's comedy in general.
Yeah, him and Will Ferrell do a thing to people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for most it is regarded, at least in the sports realm, it is regarded as like a classic.
Absolutely. And the funny thing about it is that it did pick up with golfers for quite a generation. But that all being said, it is it is framed as a movie about a hockey player who, despite his best wishes, is not good at hockey, but is good at a different sport, is good at golf, or at least one aspect of the game of golf that gives him an unfair advantage. So there's a lot of themes in the Happy Gilmore that we can talk about. There is that passion for the sport you're playing. Does that matter? Do your motivations affect your play? there is the entire notion of classism in sport. Part of the big humor element in Happy Gilmore is he is this lowbrow bumpkin coming from the hockey world, which at the time was very much this is a fisticuff. This is boxing on ice. Essentially, was still the public perception of the game. And here he comes to the refined country clubs, polo shirt wearing golf world, and that is basically the entire first half of the movie's jokes. Is haha, we got a poor guy at the country club. But behind all of that, and the thing I kind of want to touch on with Happy Gilmore being the beginning of and one end of a spectrum of Adam Sandler's career of sports movies, because as we go on from Happy Gilmore, Adam Sandler gets to make more movies, and he dips into the sports world more and more. He goes on to make Waterboy in 1998, so a couple years later for football. Takes a little break from the sports genre for about 7 years, and then hits us with his remake of The Longest Yard.
I forgot. Yeah, it does football again. I forgot.
In 2005, and has now kind of come up, and this is a new era of Adam Sandler at this point, where he's a decade into filmmaking and is getting pretty good budget. He can get a lot of sports people in.
I don't know if The Longest Yard is his or if he was just starring in it.
Well, generally, it is a Happy Madison production. So
it is?
Yeah.
It actually, I didn't know.
Yeah, in general, Adam Sandler has been very savvy about financing his own filmmaking.
It helps when your friends are really
exactly
good actors as well.
Yes, he has been very good at networking within the celebrity and sports world and able to bring those real and that was one of the big selling points too. The Longest Yard was like all the cameos they were bringing in for recognizable people to be in this football movie. Nelly was in there.
A lot of wrestlers were in there. Chris Rock was in there. Another couple of famous comedians. Tracy Morgan was in there.
Yep, classic. So Longest Yard. I kind of put this one in because it's tangentially related to sports world, but he hit us with Uncut Gems in 2019.
A movie that is the most controversial movie on the list by far.
For sure. And then before he hit us with our sequel to Happy Gilmore, he also threw out Hustle in 22, which I would say is sort of the exact opposite side of, if we think Waterboy, I would say Waterboy is the most comical, slapsticky cartoon of a...
More than Happy Gilmore, you think?
I would say Waterboy is just a little bit more, and then Happy Gilmore right after that. But then Hustle is that kind of exact opposite end of realistic.
I would put Hustle a little bit closer to Happy Gilmore-ish, because Uncut Gems is like that one's...
That's the raw realism?
Yeah, that one's the raw realism for sure.
Interesting. So, I would say...
Did you watch Hustle?
I haven't finished it in its entirety yet. I'm still making it through my full sitting, but I've seen bits and pieces of it before. Like I've seen the bits with like the NBA players and whatnot in the cinematography. Fantastic.
It's a really good movie.
It is 100%. And this is sort of one of the conversations I want to get into here is, has Adam Sandler figured out, like, is he making some of our best sports movies? Do any of these rank in your best football, best basketball movies of all time, best hockey movies?
What are we defining? Okay.
This is personal preference here.
Just personal preference here?
Does it rank as a top sports movie for you? Any of them?
And are we talking about sports movies, or are we just talking about in their respective categories?
I will leave that up to you. If we want to get granular about it, sport by sport, I'll take that. But does any of the Adam Sandler filmography make it onto your list? Best sports, best basketball, best hockey movies, period.
I would say yes. I think for me personally, I really did. I think all of them deserve their place. If we're talking about just granularly, I think they all end up on at least my personal, in their respective sports for sure. Happy Gilmore's like, it belong. I think that one is in my top like sports movies overall, but is like the number one golf movie for me. Mm-hmm. The Longest Yard is up there, and I think football movies for me, I don't know if it's one of my favorite sports movies. Hustle is really, really good, and is I think different than a lot of basketball movies have been. There's always been sort of the trope within basketball movies where it's like, well, there's this sort of this relationship aspect that's happening, and there's basketball being played, or it's this goofy basketball that's happening. There's nothing that's been sort of
Hustle is very much
real.
a love letter to the process of building a league and like the pipeline of how a player gets into the league.
Yeah, it's much
Which
more,
is a very unique, aspect that has not gotten the film treatment.
it's much more real than I think a lot of other basketball movies have been thus far that are not documentary based. I should say.
Yeah, different beast to make a fictional basketball movie versus documenting what actually happened, like an actual historical occurrence.
Yeah, Happy Gilmore just for sure, Waterboy for sure. I think are in my top sports movies. The Longest Yard I think is for sure in my top, and just in my general top sports movies. I don't even know what I don't know what my favorite sports movie of all time is. Actually,
That's a good one to think about. But yeah, because I would say now here's another one as far as football. Which ranks higher, Waterboy or Longest Yard?
That's tough.
Right, right.
They are two different movies. I think if we're just talking about football itself, I think I like The Longest Yard because it's a little bit more.
The Longest Yard is a better football movie.
Is a better football movie overall. The Waterboy I think is a comedy movie that's about football.
It's dressed in football.
Yeah. Personally, I like The Longest Yard better because I think it resonated with me a little bit more at the time I watched it. It holds a
you were
different place in my
older,
heart. Yeah.
able to take in those themes of redemption and whatnot. Speaking of themes, we talked about some of the ones in original Happy Gilmore, the classism, the personal motivation of the athlete, because as we know, Happy is trying to make money to save his grandma's home, and then in Act 3, before we get to Act 3, the villain ends up outbidding him for his grandma's home.
No spoilers here?
And no spoiler warning on the movie from 96. It's as old as you are if you haven't seen Happy Gilmore yet. Now, I should say, a little spoiler warning. We'll give a spoiler warning for Happy Gilmore 2, which has only been out for a month. And that one's a fair one that some people might not have dipped in. But yes, we will probably be spoiling some of the plot elements of Happy Gilmore 2 here.
Have you watched that one more than once, or have you just watched that
the one time on family film night? So you and I have the same amount of taking that one in. But yeah, so as a comparison, I've seen the original Happy Gilmore probably 24 times.
I was going to say I've seen it at least a dozen times myself.
Yeah.
So
that being said, what was your take on Happy Gilmore 2? All of this, build up on the original and Mr. Sandler's filmmaking, leading up to 30 years later, a sequel to one of his most beloved franchises. A lot of people said some of those 90s ones maybe shouldn't be redone. But how did you take it?
So I think I personally I liked it. I'll start just with my feelings alone. I liked it a lot actually. There's been some sort of it's another one that's kind of like we said. Happy Gilmore is probably in a lot of people's just top sports movies of all time. So there's some different feels around doing a sequel of it, and everyone feels different about it. So it's a little controversial still for the most part. But personally, I liked it a lot for a movie that is a sequel of something, like you said, happened 30 years ago, a little less than 30 years ago, because it did come out when I was
29
born.
years, yeah.
Yeah. We're not quite 30 yet. But I liked it a lot. Like when you're doing a sequel of something, usually you're coming out a couple years later, your Star Wars, your Harry Potters, things of that, something that's a little bit
This
more
is 2 generations in between.
2 generations between. I think it had enough of the comedy, and it still held like the plot and the feeling around Happy Gilmore. It's not better than the original, but it didn't disappoint me as much as I thought it was going to, which is why I was myself a little bit hesitant to watch it.
Sure. I had some mixed feelings going in as well, because there is the element of he's such a different Adam Sandler is such a different person now in his life, he is an A-list star of comedy. He gets billions of dollars.
Have you ever watched a movie, you like the first one, and then you watch the sequel and it just ruins everything for you?
I mean, I've been fortunate that most of the franchises I get involved in haven't had that step, but The Matrix is maybe up there in terms of the second one where you're just that did not hit the same.
No. And then it's I don't even want to watch the first one anymore.
No, I don't think I've had any that have a sequel has absolutely ruined the first one for me, but
franchise. Yeah.
For sure it was a concern, a worry. And I will say that I was also pleasantly surprised at how well Adam Sandler was able to bring kind of both halves of himself in this one. he definitely reminded us he can go back to 90s young out of college Adam Sandler making dick and fart jokes and it's slapstick people getting hit with golf balls and still making it funny though. That's the thing is you can say, oh, what puerile writing and what's you still laugh when it happens if you're watching with an open mind and an open heart and a willingness to let some silly antics let you laugh. But all of that said, it was still a movie about a man who. Now, here's another thing that I kind of looked at or realized as I was looking through this filmography. And one of the things I give Adam Sandler a lot of credit for, he, as much as he likes to write himself into these romances with actresses who you can't fault a guy for trying and whatnot through his career.
Is every movie he's in a Billy Madison or what is it? What is his production studio?
Happy
called?
Madison.
Yeah, Happy Madison studio.
Yeah, most of them are. Yeah,
he's been like is he like 51st States or
yep,
something
that was
like
him.
that? Yeah,
and he had a lot of misses too in that comedy era of just like I'm pandering out. He was also behind a lot of the Rob Schneider turns into this thing era that South Park made fun of.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So it's not an unblemished record, but I would say in his 30 years of filmmaking now, a thing that he has continued to go to, he doesn't make protagonists that are perfect or in fact the characters he plays by and large are very flawed human beings. Happy Gilmore has anger issues. The water boy has is lacks education, lacks and that's not a character flaw in and of himself, but
it is a chink in the armor that he does have.
The Longest Yard, he's in prison. He is a criminal.
He made a mistake.
Yeah. And then even the in Hustle, he's trying his best to be a scout, a coach, but also having to balance his family life and not doing it perfectly. He is a mortal man. He is always a mortal man with flaws, with imperfections. And I think that is one of the elements that makes it work, that makes the comedy work, that makes it, you can get on his side because there's a relatableness in that sometimes very hyper flawed characterization, which he brings, which, is an element I think in Happy Gilmore 2 that comes out a lot is that Happy is not a perfect man. Like, even though he had golf success at the end of the first movie, we are told very quickly at the beginning, it did not last for him. Happy has this thing about death around him, recurring death, and how he has to deal with that I think is very human and is kind of wild to be handled so regularly in this quote-unquote comedy movie, but is a thing that, and he brings it back in the second one. His dad dies when he's a kid at a hockey game. He kills his own mentor, Chubbs, and then they wrote in the second one, spoiler alert, here we go for Happy Gilmore 2, that he is responsible for the death of his own wife.
He did kill the alligator as well in the first one.
That one was straight up murder, 100% premeditated and intentional. But yes, that is one of the many deaths that he does rack up. So there's this thing of people keep dying around him. What sort of responsibility does he have for that? He carries the death of his wife a lot harder and a lot longer than he does the death of Chubbs. But it's a thing he's still carrying because we know we meet Chubbs' son in Happy Gilmore 2, a fun callback and inclusion of, what's his name? LeVar. It was also fun that they named him Slim to be Chubbs.
Carl Weathers is his name.
Was Chubbs, and then the comedian that got to play his son in this one, he was also one of the what was it in Breaking Bad? He was like the comic relief bad guy alongside Bill Burr.
Lavelle Crawford.
Thank you. There we go. Those elements coming up, and there's a whole scene that really I caught my attention in Happy Gilmore 2, where Happy and Shooter have a fist fight in the cemetery amongst the headstones of all the actors from the original who had died since the filming of the second one were not able to be in it. where they did cut in footage and like they wrote in the bits that those characters were kind of responsible for, and I don't know, that was a very interesting way of like nodding to the past there to me.
Yeah, I think it's hard, like in this sort of retrospect, I think a lot of those characters had a big part in the movie. Like the Bob Barker part is it's kind of like a
Iconic.
widely recognized.
Yeah.
It's an iconic scene around the.
If you don't know anything about Happy Gilmore, you know he fights Bob Barker.
Yeah, it's a fun little bit. I mean, Carl Weathers, of course, who is a huge piece of who helped sort of him being Chubbs and forming who Happy Gilmore is and becoming the golfer that he is. Unfortunately, did pass away, and having his, I think you have to have a nod to him because he was literally a huge part of the movie.
Oh yeah, 100%. And in fact, I read a thing that they were originally writing it with Carl Weathers involved still, so that it was going to be more of Happy having to go through. Carl Weathers would, because his character is still dead. Chubbs has already canonically died in the original Happy Gilmore, but Carl Weathers would come back as sort of an Obi-Wan ghost for Happy, while Happy has to kind of heal that relationship with with Chubbs' son. They unfortunately, did have to kind of cut that storyline out and just make it so that Slim had already forgiven Happy for losing his father, which good on him. The notion of, I don't know, this sort of guilt that Happy's carrying for this whole second movie here, while also having to be this I also found very interesting in. So the other big element we're given in Happy Gilmore 2 is sort of the old school traditional way of golfing versus this new progressive shake 'em up that was no way inspired by the new competitive league to the PGA, the LIV in real life at all.
Nope.
And the notion that Happy ends up on the defending traditionalism side of that, when he was in fact like the barrier breaker into
the rule breaker.
Yeah, in this old one. Did you catch on to that at all, or how did you feel about? I mean, it did lead up to the fun of Happy teaming up with all of our fun pro golfer cameos. But does that track? Would Happy Gilmore have sided with the old guard?
I mean, we've kind of seen this story happen already in actual real life, right? When Liv tried to take away Tiger Woods from the PGA, and Tiger's like, no, like, this is, I don't know what you guys are doing, but this is what the real golf is. And I think Tiger Woods, I would say that he was some inspiration for Happy Gilmore, at least a little bit.
Certainly there's an element of that. Tiger had not compiled quite the resume of success at the point that Happy Gilmore was coming out, where it could be an obvious 1-to-1. But in the 29 years since then, yes, they did sort of embrace, because it was the recurring line where Shooter was like, "I was the best golfer of the '90s," and Happy's like, "Yeah, you were right behind me and Tiger."
Yeah, I think that it is true. I think very similar to Tiger. I think the way he holds the tour in the movie it means more to him than siding with sort of this new weird cool golf thing that is very heavily inspired by himself, in fact.
And yeah, so that was interesting. The other thing, topic I wanted to cover up from Happy Gilmore 2 that they touch on is the notion of at what point does physical alteration cross the line into now we don't like that for sports enhancement? Because as a plot point in the movie, they determined that there was it like a ligament in the hips that they could snip out of the golfers, and it would allow them to wind up to emulate Happy Gilmore's amount of power without having to do the inaccurate run-up pose. And that was sort of the bad guys have all had this surgical alteration, and that's not a thing that any of our traditionalists are doing. I mean, it sort of paints it as this is an extreme kind of weird thing to do, but we're pretty closely on the edge of some of these real life cases where when does medical treatment become too much sports enhancement?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't. we luckily haven't seen it yet in majority of our professional sports, I would say. Uh, I don't how far are people willing to go to become professionals. That's
Yeah, I would say thankfully we haven't had to settle with that in real
I
life
think
at
it
all.
is
It has been largely fictional examples of
there
it.
is I think there is I think it'd be taboo for sure. Like it wouldn't most of the people get here and there's like some God gifted talent and whatnot involved and with some abilities. But having a surgery, I think people for sure would have a surgery if they could get them just a little bit farther in the sport or passion that they love. Maybe it's not like all those dudes in the movie, the people in the movie. Maybe it's not making it to the tour, but going on to do something.
The difference
else
between
or-
like being able to be like an amateur or a professional level, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but a lot of people would be a no brainer to get a surgery to perform at to be a competitive level with the true athletes
Yeah.
or the professional athletes.
I think for sure if they had found out that the thing from the Rookie or Rookie of the Year where his arm healed funny and it made him throw crazy good, if that had been a real thing, it probably would be standard procedure in the MLB by now.
Yeah, Tommy John you up and then Rookie of the Year.
Oh man, terrible. We have the imperfect character of Happy. We have him trying to defend the old school golf versus this new wave performanceal thing. How did you take the turn of Shooter McGavin going from bitter rival to ally in this one in Happy Gilmore 2? Because they reintroduce Shooter to us as someone who has held on to this grudge, this notion that Happy Gilmore does not belong in this professional golf world, and then pretty quickly resolve that into, oh no, actually we've come to find that we are on the same side of things.
It's always the old what is it like verbiage? The enemy of the enemy is my friend.
Yep.
Which Shooter's whole thing, for the most part, I mean, characteristically, has always been like he wants the tour to be pure, whether that means keeping out the bumpkins like Happy Gilmore, unfortunately, for the betterment of his sport, or that means these psychos are getting performance enhancing surgery, and now this, which is crazy, which is not for the betterment of his sport. Like that's the thing is for him, he holds the tour just as close as Happy by this point now that it makes sense for them to kind of team up and go against this greater evil.
And I think that combines back to our Lost in Thought segment where it reflects on you as a person, what you value in the sport for who you consider to be good, and for Shooter McGavin to get out of his mental institution holdings, get a new look at the landscape of golf, and be like, oh, actually, Happy Gilmore is on the right side of things. Again, is very telling, yes, of where what Shooter McGavin values about golf, and the fact that he did think that Happy Gilmore was infringing upon that in the original movie, but with time has come to see that, oh no, actually, there are greater threats to the game of golf.
It's interesting to me about how, like, I understand what the storyline, why they told it, and I think it's a good one, but it could have gone the other way where Shooter's obsessed with victory and beating Happy, that he can throw aside the thing he truly values most.
Which is honestly what I thought they were going to do originally.
I also thought they were going to go that way.
It very much seemed set up that Shooter would be the lead of this new wave. I guess it's just kind of coming to me right now. That would have made him a mockery of himself from the 90s. So I guess a more sentimental or humanistic take on Shooter McGavin there. But that it's now I guess I can keep rambling on about just these different aspects of the movie for quite a while. But we'll go ahead and I think wrap it up since we're nearing our original time here. Just finish up. Which did you prefer more, the original Happy Gilmore or Happy Gilmore 2?
The original, by far. I think the original still. I think it's tough to beat the original because it's iconic. It's a classic. It's really tough to outdo yourself. And usually in cinema history, the sequels never are as good as the original.
Yes, I think I concur with you there. Well, Happy Gilmore 2, I think that this has kind of been the consensus, at least from anyone I've heard, including the people who had just also watched the movie, who were sitting in front of us at the baseball game we went to last week. that it was just better than you thought it would be. Maybe a little trepidation across the board for everyone who's like, okay, it's been a while since we'll get back into Happy Gilmore, but no, it's still very good.
It is a good movie. I'm not saying it's not a good movie. It's a good movie, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not the same thing that the original Happy Gilmore was. I'm 100% with you there, and would love to break down all these fun sort of narrative themes and whatnot for some other media that I'm a big fan of. We've been doing a lot of been intaking a lot of K-pop Demon Hunters this summer, and I've got some things to say about that. And I could go off on Star Wars and all those number of things. But I think we'll wrap up our pop culture craft discussion on the Adam Sandler verse for there today. Unless you have any other closing thoughts on Mr. Sandler and his sports films.
The one thing I will say about him is I am thankful that he is making these sports movies, because there's nothing quite like them. Like there's nowhere else you can find a Waterboy or a Happy Gilmore other than inside of a crazy man's mind, of course. I am fortunate enough that we've been around enough that we've gotten to see a sequel of. We're not going to. Be a miracle to see a sequel of a Waterboy 2.
I was going to say, I don't think there should be a Waterboy 2.
No.
We can go back to that story, we can go back to that world, but whatever that movie is, definitely is not centered around Bobby Boucher anymore.
It could be, but in a different aspect. I have some...
Bobby Boucher is the coach or something now. Is the Henry Winkler character type of thing.
Yeah.
That I can maybe see, but it can't be called Waterboy. It can't be one of the equipment managers is freakishly good at the sport.
Son of the Waterboy.
Maybe.
Coming to a Netflix near you.
Okay. Well, with that, I think that is a good place to close it out on this one. Thank you, Zach, and thank you everyone for listening along with my indulgence here on Pop Culture Craft.